안녕하세요. 진건쌤입니다. 이번 시간에는 비동사 부정문 연습을 할 건데요. 빈칸이 있는 문장이 나오면 혼자서 알맞은 비동사의 부정형 am not, aren't, isn't를 넣으면서 뜻을 생각해 보세요. 약 4초 후에 답과 해석이 나타나고 두 번 읽는데요. 처음에는 am not, aren't, isn't를 써서 읽고요. 두 번째 읽을 때는 주어가 대명사면 I'm not, you're not, he's not 처럼 주어와 비동사의 줄임말을 써서 읽습니다. 될 수 있으면 해석은 보지 않고 영어를 영어로 생각하는 습관을 기르도록 하는 것이 좋습니다. 그럼 이제 비동사 부정문 연습을 시작합니다. The drawers aren't empty. The drawers aren't empty. I am not sick. I'm not sick. She isn't a teacher in my school. She is not a teacher in my school. The students aren't in the lab. The students aren't in the lab. The kids aren't early for class today. The kids aren't early for class today. He isn't a lawyer. He's not a lawyer. They aren't friends. They're not friends. It isn't a nice city. It's not a nice city. I am not interested in sports. I'm not interested in sports. Barry and I aren't good students. Barry and I aren't good students. Barry and I는 위에 해당되는 말로 are not, aren't를 써줘야 합니다. I만 보고 am not을 쓰지 않도록 조심하세요. The ceiling isn't white. The ceiling isn't white. I am not in the kitchen. I'm not in the kitchen. It isn't a toy. It's not a toy. The windows aren't dirty. The windows aren't dirty. Cats aren't as noisy as dogs. Cats aren't as noisy as dogs. The woman isn't old. The woman isn't old. The balls aren't on the table. The balls aren't on the table. My husband isn't a doctor. My husband isn't a doctor. I am not your brother. I'm not your brother. The subway isn't full. The subway isn't full. It isn't a grasshopper. It's not a grasshopper. My friend isn't good at math. My friend isn't good at math. The garbage bags aren't in the drawer. The garbage bags aren't in the drawer. We aren't twins. We aren't twins. The vacuum isn't in the basement. The vacuum isn't in the basement. My wife isn't at the mall. My wife isn't at the mall. The keys aren't in the car. The keys aren't in the car. The ribbon isn't red. The ribbon isn't red. The garbage can isn't full. The garbage can isn't full. They aren't yellow. They're not yellow. The cheese isn't on the table. The cheese isn't on the table. They aren't in the lab. They're not in the lab. The microwave oven isn't in the kitchen. The microwave oven isn't in the kitchen. It isn't a good idea. It's not a good idea. The pants aren't black. The pants aren't black. They aren't true. They're not true. It isn't true. It's not true. She isn't my sister. She's not my sister. I am not 12. I am not 12. The shoes aren't expensive. The shoes aren't expensive. The store isn't far. The store isn't far. My parents aren't home from work yet. My parents aren't home from work yet. My boss isn't at the office. My boss isn't at the office. My neighbors aren't Spanish. My neighbors aren't Spanish. They aren't in the lab. They're not in the lab. The students aren't tired today. The students aren't tired today. Jane isn't tall. Jane isn't tall. She isn't my best friend. She's not my best friend. The boys aren't in the tent. The boys aren't in the tent. My sister-in-law isn't Italian. My sister-in-law isn't Italian. It isn't fair. It's not fair. Diane isn't pregnant. Diane isn't pregnant. The juice isn't cold. The juice isn't cold. I am not tired. I'm not tired. We aren't busy at work. We are not busy at work. She isn't ready. She's not ready. My hands aren't dirty. My hands aren't dirty. The lemons aren't sour. The lemons aren't sour. Our teacher isn't very tall. Our teacher isn't very tall. He isn't late for class today. He's not late for class today. The books aren't on the shelf. The books aren't on the shelf. The roads in the city aren't wide. The roads in the city aren't wide. In the city는 the roads를 꾸며주는 형용사 구기 때문에 이 문장의 주어는 roads, 길들입니다. 그래서 aren't를 써야 하는데 빈칸 바로 앞에 있는 the city만 보고 이것이 단수라고 isn't를 쓰지 않도록 조심해야 합니다. I am not busy right now. I'm not busy right now. The bus isn't empty. The bus isn't empty. The eraser isn't in the pencil case. The eraser isn't in the pencil case. 이것으로 비동사 부정문 연습이 끝났는데요. 혼자 힘으로 많이 해낼 수 있었나요? 그다지 어렵지는 않았지만 우리말처럼 자연스럽게 사용하기 위해서는 약간의 연습이 필요한 부분이죠. 영어 속담에 Slow and steady goes a long way. 천천히 착실하게 한 걸음씩 가는 것이 먼 길을 갈 수 있다 라는 속담이 있습니다. 너무 서두르지 마시고 하나씩 착실하게 연습해 가면서 영어를 정복하시기 바랍니다. 오늘은 여기까지고요. 다음 시간부터는 비동사를 사용해서 물어보는 방법과 대답하는 방법을 공부하도록 하겠습니다. 이번 시간에도 수고하셨고요. 다음 영상에서 뵙겠습니다.